Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. Much like the game's story, how it was erased from history, so is the actual game itself, for the time being. This of course means that this is one of the only cancelled Kingdom Hearts games, which is absolutely insane considering that Square Enix presumably spent around about 4 years of development on this title. We're obviously hoping that at some point in the future, the game gets repurposed with all of the different assets and things that were developed for the game into a proper console title, as this game's story was certainly supposed to hold a set amount of significance, especially for this next coming saga of Kingdom Hearts, beginning with Kingdom Hearts 4. However, what you guys just saw and what I currently have in front of me right now is not actually a build of Missing Link, but it is an actual Unreal Engine project that allows me here to actually view the different levels and environments and some of the assets from the game in complete real time. In case you don't know, the files of a closed beta test of Kingdom Hearts Missing Link was actually extracted last year. This means that people were able to dive in and data mine the game. There were a ton of really interesting discoveries, but over the past few months, my good friend Arena has been putting together this amazing level viewer for Missing Link. Now, I know the first thing that you're probably going to ask, and that will be, holy shit, is this going to become public? This is something that Arena is considering, but obviously hosting something like this definitely does come with a risk. Both Disney and Square Enix would be in their full rights to just completely take it down. It is something that might end up happening, but it is in the hands of Arena. I've got a few things to say about some of the environments in the game, but the first thing we're going to do is click on Open the Door. Now, this experience allows me to play as Ramus. Pretty basic stuff here. The purpose of this is really just to view the assets of Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, but it's cool that Arena made it so that you can actually play as one of the Missing Link characters right here. But you'll see it contains a collection of all of the different character pieces that were going to be included in the game. These were essentially the game's special abilities for your Keyblade wielder. So rather than a PNG image, which Union Cross used, Square Enix actually had to develop 3D models for every single ability in the game, which is insane. Let's get a closer view here. We can actually go into a first-person mode. And they are reasonably detailed, considering that you would never really ever see these up close. It's kind of crazy. I mean, this is a lot of work. Again, about 3 to 4 years of proper development was actually spent on Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. What is interesting here is you can actually tell what character models were ripped from Kingdom Hearts 3, so completely designed and developed for Unreal Engine, and what models had been ripped from older Kingdom Hearts games and simply just imported that never received HD models. So Wendy here, for example, from Neverland, you can see this is like from OG Kingdom Hearts, whereas we have someone like Hercules here, who did in fact receive an HD model for Kingdom Hearts 3. Here we've got King Mickey. So yeah, there were 2 King Mickey character pieces. We've got Sora. You can tell that these character models are a little bit lower quality compared to the ones that we see in Kingdom Hearts 3. And interestingly enough, Missing Link was actually being developed on Unreal Engine 5, which we know Kingdom Hearts 4 is being developed on UE5 as well. So this is going to be the first UE5 Kingdom Hearts game. Even the ones that have been ripped and imported from the older Kingdom Hearts games, they all look really nice. So it makes you think, are all of these different models that were assembled for Missing Link, for like the character pieces here, will they just go to waste? Or will some version of the character piece ability system be reconstructed for the hypothetical console entry remake of Missing Link? I think it's the perfect opportunity for Square Enix to re-implement the Command Deck system that we saw in Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance, but rather this time for Missing Link, because the character pieces are actually intertwined into Missing Link's lore, the character pieces now act as the Command Deck's commands. So this would be an excellent way to be able to re-implement all of the work that Square Enix did on these character pieces into a remake of the game. And you can see too that like some of them even came with unique stands as well, depending on the character and its rarity. So this is the beach section of Scala Ad Caelum. This level space right here takes place at the very beginning of the game, right after the tutorial section in the Station of Awakening. In the background, though, is a huge, quite detailed model of Ancient Scala. It's actually quite impressive just how much of Scala Ad Caelum has actually been modeled in here, considering that it's only used for a backdrop. This is great because it gives us a really good sense of Ancient Scala's layout. You can see that the entire ring of the main island here with the castle has actually been modeled, which in comparison, looking at Kingdom Hearts 3, the main island in Scala there, you only see buildings on one side of the island, because, you know, the player character's never meant to see around the back of the island, so the back is blank in Kingdom Hearts 3, whereas buildings are all the way around the entire circular stretch of the city here. So clearly Square Enix spent quite a long time actually detailing the backdrop just for this one stretch of level space, which is really interesting. What's interesting about this layout, though, is in actuality, the castle should be right in the center of the circle there, but for the purpose of it being a backdrop, it's actually positioned down to the right of this center circle. I'm guessing that this was a design decision so that the castle and the backdrop of the city looks better while the player is down on the beach. We also get to see a really nice up-close view of the Ancient Scala Castle, looking incredibly different to the castle that's in sort of the present that we get to see in Kingdom Hearts 3. And I didn't realize this until recently, but yeah, this same dandelion symbol is actually present within Kingdom Hearts 3's version of Scala Ad Caelum, minus the heart detail right at the top with the 5 spokes sticking out. So this tells us that it was always within Tetsuya Nomura's minds that Scala Ad Caelum was a city that was rebuilt by Ephemer and the surviving dandelion. But honestly, man, like, look at this vibe. Look at this vibe. It is, like, as a Bloodborne fan, like, this is insane because it gives me strong Yharnam vibes, just with that, like, old English ancient Victorian era type aesthetic to it. God, it just looks absolutely incredible. Something that I've come to realize with this design of Scala Ad Caelum is if you look at the walls that make up each of the tiers of the city, it absolutely screams Tower of Babel. And if you're familiar with the story of the Tower of Babel, it was constructed by humans to prevent them from being scattered so that they could remain in unity. It would also safeguard them from any natural disasters, mainly looking at floods, and to also build a tower that was tall enough to reach the heavens, which is really interesting considering that Scala Ad Caelum, it is Latin, which translates to stairway to heaven. I believe that at least looking at Ancient Scala right here, Tetsuya Nomura was literally inspired by the Tower of Babel. And yes, at this point in Scala Ad Caelum's history, there are other islands. So off in the distance right there, even though it's just a simple 2D asset that's been placed in the background, I'm assuming that is supposed to depict an additional island that is being constructed. We look at Kingdom Hearts 3, there is the main Scala Ad Caelum islands, but then multiple different surrounding islands. So the same, definitely, at least judging by the backdrop here, still does exist for Ancient Scala. Something quite interesting about some of the details here on the beach is there's a lot of washed up stuff, like debris and whatnot, that's clearly washed ashore. Here we've got kind of what looks like a modern looking bike. We've got a videotape, which is really interesting. And is that a microwave? We know that people from different worlds turn up in Ancient Scala all the time, and they're referred to as drifters, in which your player character in Missing Link was supposed to be one of these exactly, a drifter. So I wonder if not just people turn up in Scala, but also other objects and items and things wash ashore from completely different worlds. Because although this Scala Ad Caelum does actually have technology, which is proved by the computer room here, it's not quite modern technology like this microwave, for example. I think that these small details were purposely put here to portray that things from different worlds wash up on the shores of Scala Ad Caelum quite often. I'm also really curious about this massive dome building that's located on the perimeter of the city. clearly, because it is a unique building compared to most others, it was meant to be a location of importance. Whether or not it's supposed to be some type of a coliseum, maybe for future multiplayer modes, or maybe a courthouse of sorts where all societies would gather. It could even be the headquarters of Ephemer's Bloodline Society. I want to talk about this jungle environment because a lot of people were talking about this when it first showed up in one of the trailers. It was the only look we got at a Disney World within any of, or should I say, across the 2 Missing Link trailers that we got. And obviously a lot of us were speculating as to like what this world could be. The main theory there was that this was perhaps Lilo and Stitch Hawaii. It could be Moana, because looking at the vegetation and the trees here, it does look quite tropical. But in actual fact, I can confirm this environment here is actually Neverland. So this is within the jungle area of the Neverland Island, and how we know that is because the actual internal file name of this level refers to Neverland. So yeah, for anyone that had perhaps speculated that this was Neverland, congratulations, you were correct. The space was a part of the beta for one of the volume quests, so we didn't really know how Disney Worlds were going to work outside of just volume quests, but at least how they worked within the volume quests is you'd be sent to this like little area, you'd defeat a group of Heartless, and you'd sort of like move on down a path. You'd eventually come to another area, fight another wave of Heartless, and then kind of so on and so forth, until the quest ends. But we never really got to learn, like, is that the extent of how Disney Worlds work in Missing Link? Or would they actually be, like, integrated into the story where there's actual scripted events and sequences that take place, like, in the Disney Worlds? I wasn't really expecting full-blown, like, exploration or anything like that, but something a bit more outside of just the simple, like, do this mission, kill this Heartless in the world, then you're done, you know, type thing. So this right here is the Dive Station Square. This was going to be the main player hub of the game, where you could see other players running around and kind of like interact and whatnot. You'd be able to buy items from the vendors that were set up over here from the various different vendor moogles. And over here is the entrance into the dive station, which the dive station would send you into the GPS mode of the game, connecting the realm and universe of Kingdom Hearts into our own literal known reality. Look at this atmosphere though. Is this not just simply incredible? And it's all gone down the toilet. Well, I hope it hasn't. I really do hope that this beautiful environment does end up getting repurposed, because my god, it's vibey. Look at this. There was even grass and trees on top of the roofs as well, which, yes, even in modern Scala Ad Caelum in Kingdom Hearts 3 and Dark Road, yes, there is vegetation that grows on the rooftops, which is quite nice. So they kind of kept up with that theme here. This existed back in the ancient days of the city. However, here, I like that it actually shows you the lower tiers of the city. So Square Enix did model this, although it is very low detail because you're not really meant to get up close. You can see these sort of the port spaces of Scala Ad Caelum down at the bottom of the city. I actually didn't notice that. There is, okay, little waterfall going off the side of the walls here. Very nice. So this is the famous Fountain Square area with the statue of Ephemer. I just want to really quickly show you guys, we can actually look at the exact point where Brain arrives in Scala Ad Caelum at the end of Union Cross. It's actually right here outside of this building. This is where the cutscene happens of Brain arriving and being confronted by Sigurd. From here, they end up walking all the way down the street to eventually arrive at the Fountain Square. And of course, right here is where Sigurd breaks the news that Brain has arrived at some point in the future, and he's now standing within a city that has been rebuilt by Ephemer. From there, both Brain and Sigurd would make their way to headquarters to further fill Brain in on the sort of current situation that they're dealing with. Now, I'm not too sure if headquarters was set up in this big building, because clearly it is quite important as it's got its own like unique model, or if headquarters is quite literally the castle itself. Again though, I'm just absolutely obsessed with the architecture, all of these different like statues and whatnot praying. Does this like mean anything? Is there some deeper meaning to like the statues and stuff? Because they're also positioned down around the square as well. I wonder if these are meant to depict like the followers of Ephemer's pure bloodline or something. But yeah, man, I'm obsessed with this atmosphere. It is incredible. So this is inside the Baroque headquarters, the society that your player character joins shortly after arriving in Scala Ad Caelum. This is obviously where Ramus brings the player character, and you get introduced to both Freya and Nept, the leader. There's a lot of smaller details that can be seen within the headquarters itself. Mainly this little poster space right here, where clearly the society are doing some investigation or research into different things going on around the city. Unfortunately, a lot of these assets are incredibly low quality, so it's sort of hard to make out some of the stuff here. All of these posters and flyers and stuff are written in the Ancient Scala Ad Caelum text, which there are partial translations of Scala Ad Caelum's text, though because these are all such low quality, it's almost basically impossible to be able to translate any of this. But what's interesting is it looks like there's a poster there of what could potentially be Sigurd, which we saw that within one of the trailers, and there's also another character here as well. Not sure who this bald man is, but I'm sure they would have played some type of an important role in the story. This little poster here of a man on a horse has the heart symbol, kind of interesting. We've also got the Master's Defender, which would obviously be a very important and prominent Keyblade throughout the society of Scala Ad Caelum during this era. There's nothing too interesting within this space, really, just a lot of like old English type furniture. Again, just like staying on theme with that whole like Victorian type vibe. Very cozy, I like it. Just paper and books and scrolls and junk absolutely everywhere. This right here is the command room. So this is where the, I guess, I don't really know what you call them, the scientists or the researchers of Scala Ad Caelum would be stationed to monitor any distortions that are happening around the city. So distortions are almost like portals where the Heartless would spawn into the city. The scientists would then relay this information to the multiple different societies set up around the city, and troops from one of the responding societies would be sent out to deal with the Heartless threat. But you can see again, like the technology that they were using in this era of Scala Ad Caelum was kind of like quite old school. I want to point out too that the sewer lids that are positioned around the city are also the same sewer lids that we see in modern Scala in Kingdom Hearts 3, and as we know, they read Daybreak. So Ephemer built Scala Ad Caelum on top of the ruins of Daybreak Town, and we get to see those ruins during the Xehanort fight in Scala during Kingdom Hearts 3. So one thing that has remained between Ancient Scala and modern Scala is the sewer lids. I suppose that's about it. Otherwise, the city definitely received an incredible overhaul. So I'm guessing that if you were to go into the sewer system, you would enter into the ancient ruins, more ancient than this Ancient Scala, of Daybreak Town. Kind of a cool thought, like at this point, Daybreak Town would be the subterranean ruins. I would love to see what it actually looks like. The last thing that I want to show you guys here is Arena made a small little map to showcase the Keyblades, all of the Keyblades that were in the files of the beta build. So here we've got the 4 different levels of the Fortune Gear Keyblade, beginning at level 1 here, quite basic looking, level 2, alright, starting to get a little bit more technical, alright, level 3, looking pretty cool, and level 4, my god. Definitely a top tier Keyblade. I love Fortune Gear. I've actually forgotten what this green one was called, but this was the ranged magic based Keyblade. For those that don't know, each Keyblade in Missing Link, similar to Days, would contain a completely unique combo. So level 1, level 2, it's basically a lamp. Level 3, and level 4, again, a top tier Keyblade. So the new original Keyblades for Missing Link, although there were only 2, actually 3 now that I'm remembering, all look completely badass. We've then got the Starlight, so that is an untextured level 1 Starlight. And then we've got a clean looking level 4 Starlight that appears right at the beginning of the game. And here is the rusted version that the player ends up with when they arrive in Scala Ad Caelum. The Gazing Eye Keyblade was also in the files. And I'm guessing because in one of the trailers, Lushu is walking around, keeping an eye on things during this era, to no one's surprise. His model was actually found within the files of the beta, so no doubt he would have appeared, during a cutscene at some point in the story, and he would be equipped with the Gazing Eye Keyblade. I do not believe this indicates that the Gazing Eye Keyblade would have been a Keyblade that players could use. And the last Keyblade here is Ramus's. It almost suggests that this would end up being a Keyblade that players could actually equip. So level 1 of Ramus's looks really nice, like even at level 1, that looks badass. Level 2 looking a little bit more detailed. We've got level 3 starting to look really vicious, and then level 4. That is a really cool looking Keyblade. It actually looks like a fusion of Axel's Flame Liberator Keyblade meeting Auron's Guardian Soul. Arena also put together a map that contains all of the different assets that were used within each of the level spaces throughout the game. Here are some of the outfits that were available in the beta that you could customize your player character with. Here's a few of the non-important NPCs that would be walking around town. I want to say a big thank you to Arena for spending many months working on this. This has allowed us to at least preserve the current environments that were constructed for Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. And I think that's super important, as this is a really cool piece of Kingdom Hearts history. It's still so hard to believe that Square Enix just threw this away. All of that time and effort completely wasted. Getting up close and personal though with the world of Kingdom Hearts Missing Link just further solidifies, at least for me, that this game is in desperate need of a remake, and I hope that this is within Square Enix's future plans. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's video. It would mean the world to me if you slap that like button, like really hard. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A big thank you to my wonderful patrons and YouTube members. I really appreciate the support. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll talk again real soon.